G'day legends, I hope you're all fantastic. On today's video, we're going to be checking out the new Genome plugin from 2Notes Audio Engineering. It's essentially an all-in-one guitar workstation in a plugin format. You've got the 2Notes DynIR cabinets in here, you've got amp modeling, you've got the ability to load things like neural amp modeler captures, and you've got effects in here, everything from your typical compressors, drives, to delays, reverbs, and modulations in here. As you can see on the screen at the moment, I've just loaded up a pretty straightforward preset that I've put together using this Foundry amp in here with one of the big hairy guitars DynIR cabinets in here. I'm blending between a 421 mic and a 121 mic. I've got a little bit of EQ on there, and I have a little bit of a compressor in here. I do have to say straight up, this looks so slick and impressive. They have put a lot of work not only into just representing this in a really pleasant way graphically, but into the user experience here. The parameters are kind of deep enough without being overpowering on here, and all of these blocks or modules, whatever you want to call them, have presets that you can save in them. For example, I'm just using this funk guitar preset for the compressor. Similar things can be done in the amp over here. I'm using some custom settings, but as you can see, you can dive in and load up some presets in there. What's really cool with the amp models is, what you see is what you get here, but if you want to dive into the power amp, you can play around with different power tubes as well as the structure of the power amp in there. You can see settings for single-ended or push-pull, and then triode or pentode. So if you want to get nerdy, you can do that. Let's hear this straight up though with my PRS DGT on the tapped neck pickup. I'll add a little bit of reverb over here, then I'll add a little bit of this studio delay and some chorus on there. Let's go. It's super easy to get in here and either build presets from scratch or tweak existing presets. I built this preset from scratch, but if I wanted to swap out, say, this Launchmaker drive in here, I could just right-click the drive block over there, and I've got a bunch of different options in here. I could exchange it for another type of block if I wanted to, but let's go with the Ultra drive on here, because who doesn't love a little bit of the old Boss SD1? I'll turn the drive up and the tone down. This should sound nice and smooth. I'm going to be on the neck humbucker now. If I wanted to run multiple amps or cabinets in here, I can also click on one of these dots and split. So I could run a dual amp setup with dual cabinets if I wanted to. Let's say I merge them over here. So I'm just going to run with 2 amps. What I'm going to do over here is I'm going to change over to maybe something a little crunchier. Let's go with the Albion on this channel here, and then over here we'll go with the Eldorado. So Eldorado is kind of a Soldano thing, Albion doing the Marshall style thing on there. I'm going to come down here and maybe just use some of the built-in amp presets. So we'll go for LT. This is one that I actually made myself on here as just a starting point. And for the Eldorado, let's come down here and we'll go with, let's say 88 Ladies over here for an 80s style thing. I like the texture that's going on with the gain there, but I want to tweak this DynIR cabinet over here. This on its own is super powerful. So if you've purchased some 2Notes cabs previously, you probably noticed that you got an email from them saying, hey, here's a free license for Genome, which I think is pretty awesome. There are a bunch of built-in DynIR cabs in here. You can load up your own IRs in here, which I will show you in a little bit. But at the moment, I've got this big Hairy Guitars British V. I'm going to swap around the mic placement and the mics on here. So I'm going to mute this B microphone over here. And you can see I can just kind of move this anywhere that I like around the little virtual speaker on there. So I'm rolling with the 421. I quite like that. I can actually mic the front or the back on here, which is pretty cool. And I can play around with the phase as well as overloading the mic to give it a little bit of extra crust and crunch. So what I'm going to do is just move this around until I kind of get a nice bright sound from the 421. Then I'm going to add this 121 ribbon. I'm going to dial that in dark and I'm going to blend them together. This is a great trick with real mics or with these DynIR cabinets, which kind of mimic the behavior of miking up a real cab. Plenty of power in there to run those dual setups. As you could see there, I had a dual delay, a nice big reverb, which I brought the mix down quite a bit on, 2 amps, and those 2 different mics blended in there. I like that that mimics a real world workflow, and it's pretty easy to navigate on there. The kind of killer function of this though is that if you want to load an amp, so if I right click on here, you can see there are a bunch of built-in amp models, and most of the core flavor groups are represented in there. There's a Vox model, there's some Fenders, there's the Soldano, the Marshall, Boogies in there. There's even a power amp model. So if you wanted to say use your Synergy preamp modules straight in, use the power amp modeling in the cabs in here, you can do that. But you can load up this CODEX block on here. This supports kind of most of the open source neural network based capture solutions out there. For example, Neural Amp Model, I'm pretty sure you can use some of the IDA effects and Guitar ML on there. This is a NAM capture of my Boogie Mark IV on here that I've bumped in. I've also used the IR loader over here to just load one of my free cabinet IRs. They're available in the video description if you want them. I've got a little bit of post EQ, just a high cut and a low cut on there. Again, I've got these dual delay settings, which I am going to bypass at the moment. I've got a bit of this reverb on there. I've got the clonator, and I just have to say, whoever came up with the graphic for this is one of my favorite kind of like clon puns out there. This is so good. I would totally go and buy this as a real pedal if it had a dinosaur skeleton on there. That's just the 6-year-old in me. It's bringing me joy. Then I've got a Phase 90 model up in here. So this sounds pretty fantastic straight up. The NAM captures are really, really accurate, as a lot of people would probably know by now. I've got a video about Neural Amp Modeler as well if you want to go check it out. So there are a bunch of built-in free NAM profiles when you get the Genome plugin. You can load your own on there. What I like here is that they've expanded on it and you can kind of tweak it a bit more. You've got a tone stack in here, you've got some post EQ and an enhancer, which we will hear, but for now, this is what we get. If that's all this plugin did, providing a way to load up NAM captures that I've made with my own IRs, as well as some post EQ, some delay and reverb in here, I'd be pretty stoked with it at the price it's offered at. The fact that you get the DynIRs and the amp modeling and all the other effects is very much icing on the cake. And the fact that it is presented in such a pleasant way on here, you know, I'm not a massive fan of like skeuomorphic designs when it comes to plugins, but I do like when something doesn't look like it's straight out of a 1999, you know, Windows computer or something like that. It's nice to look at this and see that it's slick. You know, we are humans, we're visually motivated creatures on here, but I digress over there. Let's hear what some of these extra controls in this kind of CODEX block do over here. So I can obviously apply some EQ in here. That's pretty self-explanatory. And you can actually get in here and customize the values of this 5-band graphic EQ, which I really like on there. If you wanted to set them to say the values on a boogie, you could do that over there. But I think the enhancer and the tone stack options, as well as the different choices that you've got for the input on here, are pretty novel over here. Let's play around with the input. I'll swap it from neutral to warm. To me, it's pretty amazing how quickly we've gone from something like a Neural Amp Modeler coming out as an open source piece of software to seeing the way it has been integrated into a commercial product. I really like these input options on here, as well as the tone stack options, the ability to place the tone stack pre or post. It's a really cool combination of sort of the best things about component modeling and the best things about capturing. And I'm into this hybrid approach on here. I hope to see a lot more stuff like this in the future, because you can kind of close that gap between, say, your amp, for example, if you own a particular Marshall or Boogie, and a representative component model or capture of someone else's example of that amp on there. Being able to load cab IRs as well. It's a utility. Everything out there should be able to do this. I could swap that out for some DynIRs on there, but I'll leave it for now. I do have to say the studio delay has been really well put together. This is basically the way I would design a studio delay plugin in here. You can sync things up over here with these switches. So the time and feedback aren't synced. You can see I've gone for a quarter note and a dotted eighth note on one time. You can just kind of punch times in over here by hitting the millisecond button over here. So, if you did the sort of Van Halen style 400 on one side, 800 on another, and then you scaled the feedback. So let's go say feedback at around 40 for this one, feedback at around 20 for this one. I've got the dry, wet, and the EQ synced up on here, so I can go for a sort of more extreme high cut if I want to, and maybe slightly less extreme slope over there. Bring the mix down on there. I can pan them, maybe not all the way left and right. Let's kind of go somewhere around 2/3 of the way out, and we get this. The reverb has a similar level of tweakability in there. You can play around with the pre-delay, the diffusion, the tone, and the decay on there. There's an early reflection section on here. You can also play around with the reverb size and the high and low gain. If you're not comfortable doing any of that, again, you can just kind of load up some presets in here. There's halls, studios, clubs, plates, even kind of little spacey sounds in there. I'm quite fond of these settings on here. I can't remember if it was a preset that I tweaked or if I spent some time on here. I probably just tweaked a preset on here, to be honest. And there's also some cool stereo widening stuff in here. So stereo width, there is this Studio Twin tracker on there. There's also an enhancer and an exciter, so like a BBE style thing on there. Again, studio and guitar style EQs on there. There is a compressor and a volume pedal. There's a whole section which lets you automate things on here as well. It's kind of come out of the womb fully featured, which I really applaud on Two Notes' part. Let's hear this stereo twin tracker in here though. I'm gonna leave that little kind of Van Halen style delay on there. So what's cool is you can play around with the balance, all the way left, all the way right. You can leave the original in the center and then play around with the tightness parameter. So if you want it super wide or not so wide on there, like let's maybe go slightly wide. I'll set the balance in the middle right there and we'll have a listen to what it does. Do I need that reverb? I'm gonna leave the reverb on there. One of my favorite NAMM captures that I have found is this Wizard lead capture on here. It's just a great rock and roll crunch. And again, there are a whole bunch of built-in captures as well as presets. For example, if I come through here, I'll try this 800 Brits over here, which is using this Brit 800 NAM capture. There's a bunch of tweaking going on with the tone stack, EQ, and enhancer. It sounds like this. And of course, Genome comes loaded with lots and lots of factory presets. Some of my favorites are these Michael Nielsen presets in here. Michael has amazing ears and is a great player. So I like this 80s ST Diva lead on here, where he's using the DOD 250 preamp model in here, a bit of an EQ, the Albion, the Brit Vintage C DynIR cab in there, some post EQ, some nice big grease from the studio flanger and studio chorus, and these delay settings in here, as well as some reverb. Let's hear this. I really like the Tom Quayle and Jamie Humphries presets as well. They are right up my alley with plenty of grease and some cool routing options. I'm going to pull up stumps right there. If you want to learn more about Genome, I have posted links in the video description. Thank you to 2Notes for sponsoring this video. If you'd like to support my channel directly, there are links in the video description to my Patreon and the music that I make with Ragdoll. For now, I would love to hear your thoughts on Genome, and if you're using it, what are you digging in it? What's your favorite amp or capture or DynIR in there? I'd love to hear from all of you, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching.